Good afternoon. Appreciate you being here. And again, reviewing tape, getting back to work, healing up, all the good stuff, the stuff we usually talk about. So with that being said, open to questions.
Obviously, first Florida State week for you. Just does it feel any different? I know you're trying to make every week the same, but
Well, I've had a few of these, right? As a player, as a graduate assistant, and as a coach. So, I've always, when you play in this rivalry, you recognize, and especially during that time, that was always the best rivalry. And that's all you ever thought about in the offseason or whatnot. But, so as a coach, as a head coach, as a graduate assistant, you make sure that yourself and everyone else is focused on all the things that are important to making it the best that you could possibly make it. So process oriented the whole way.
What are some of your memories when you played FSU 5 times, I think, or 10 times actually? I think about it.
A lot. No, it was always a date that was circled on the calendar by everybody, state of Florida nationally, because, it just so happened the national title either for many years went through Tallahassee or through Coral Gables. And so the intensity, the level of play, the caliber of player on the field was always the highest. And so the memories of that, but that's then, this is now. Now, obviously we're building and we're in a building stage. So I don't get stuck in nostalgia theater with our players and make sure that everything is focused on the 2022 team and doing everything we can to keep getting better and progressing.
All right, when you're trying to build, you guys have been through a lot of adversity already. Injuries, all that, things all, you've been through a lot. How much has that helped as a building block? How much, because if you're winning, you're not learning a lot. I mean, you've gone through some painful stuff already here. Have you seen that adversity almost becoming a tool in a way where it can help guys develop into what you want?
I think it always does. Every job except one job that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of has been a rebuild. They're all different, in different ways. Some teams that had sputtered, some teams that had really taken a downhill turn, some teams that had never got it going, some teams that were in brutal, stretches of APR and losses and all that stuff. So they've all been different, but processes are almost identical. I mean, hard work and doing things the right way and getting good people and getting talented people and self-starters and motivated people that can endure, that are tough, that grow and are capable of learning transcends all, logistical and geographical lines. It works. So, I thought Saturday really showed that. One of those games where it's tough sledding on offense, right? We didn't do much on offense, but stayed with it, and at the end of each half, found a way to get on the board and take the game into overtime. So there's a lot to be said and a lot to be learned about something like that, and I think moments like that are invaluable for any team at any stage. And I thought we learned a few things about ourselves and some good things to build off of.
One quick follow on that. When you do have to basically win a game in the mud, which everything.
That was muddy.
It was.
Yeah.
Without rain, it was still.
It was muddy. It was muddy.
Can a team turn almost off one of the when a team knows it's capable of winning when very little is going according to plan? Can that be a springboard to get guys through the second half?
Always. There's several opportunities to attain a springboard, and when you come out with a victory in a game like that, absolutely. Especially when guys have to play that hadn't played. Especially when some of your better players didn't get to play. I think those things, they validate a lot of the stuff regarding hard work and culture and stuff of that nature. So, absolutely.
What were some of the things that you saw watching film on Jake, seeing kind of what he did well and what he made some mistakes on? I know he missed some deep throws there, but
he played with a lot of guts and he played hard, and his effort, his want to was there. He had some good moments and he had some not so good moments. First real start, right, as a quarterback here, and collectively as an offense, we could have performed better and executed better to make his job a little bit easier also. So we were out of sync in the passing game. The run game started to show some real positive signs and some loaded boxes. Henry ran really hard. The offensive line blocked well, and as Cooper played a really good game as a true freshman. Thought the tight ends did a really good job blocking, but there were opportunities to be had in the passing game. And we missed them. We missed our deep shots, and we missed them early. And we had connected on those in recent games. So I think Jake will improve upon that tremendously. He's a competitor. He works at it. So right back at it.
Coach, do you have an update on how Van Dyke's status?
Improving, he's looking better and better every single day. So we enter this week with preparing him to play, with preparing Jake to play, and preparing Jakari to play. In our minds, all three have, I know for sure Jakari's going to play some. He gives us some things on offense, and he keeps getting better and better. It's a shame the one ball he threw wasn't a good one, because I think you're going to be able to see how talented he is and how well he can throw the ball. But as TBD continues to improve, we're very optimistic. Again, he looked great yesterday, looked great today. So we'll keep pushing that envelope, and we'll see where we're at come Friday, Saturday.
What is the status with Jalen Knight and Wayne and Steve?
Steed is hurt, and his injury is a little bit more significant. Jalen Knighton is healthy. He's doing good. Had a good week of practice. We expect him to have another good week of practice this week. He's a good player. He's done a lot of good things for this team. We stuck with him through good times and bad times. Sometimes the ball was on the ground. Sometimes he ran hard. We don't hold that against anybody. He's a hard worker. He's going to get his touches. He's a good football player, and we look forward to having him have a great week.
What have you seen from FSU's offense? They're balanced, explosive.
Yeah, very explosive. They've certainly done a really good job over the last 3 years accumulating talent, getting explosive players on the perimeter. Also in their backfield, their offensive line, they've certainly done a really good job just increasing the size of their offensive line, their athleticism, their power up front. And their quarterback is playing at a really high level. They certainly present you with a lot of issues, week to week. They certainly game plan according to what they're seeing, and they've done a good job finding holes in opponent defenses and exposing those things. And they've made big plays, contested catches, broken tackles. They've performed at a high level.
Coach, how has Khalil Brantley really grown over the course of the season? I know he had that block on the 2-point conversion by Jake.
Yeah, he wanted the ball. He wanted that ball. Yesterday we made a really big deal of Khalil Brantley because, and we need to make a big deal of it today, because he's a guy that has really bought into working to be more physical and whatnot, and his presence was felt in the run game on Saturday, and he does a heck of a job, catching the football as well. So really glad to see him, take that next step. We're going to push him harder, see how far we could take him, but really glad he's on our football team.
And as Cooper, how did he perform with his opportunity?
Performed well, great out in the high 80s. Big physical guy, high effort guy. He weighs in, I guess he's in the 350, 360 range. And a year ago, he really made the commitment to trimming his body down. He was more towards the 400s. I mentioned his coaches before, Coach Cox, Coach LeBeau. Guys that I've known for a long time that have coached out there in the state of Alabama, and they had a strong belief in Inez, and introduced us to him and showed us his work ethic and how incredibly gifted he is for a big man. And since the day he's gotten here, he's worked hard. I thought he was going to be a defensive tackle, quite honestly, a nose tackle. And in his living room, he said, I want to play a right guard. So, Coach Alaveo was upset. Coach Mirabal was happy. And we went from there and brought him here to Coral Gables. He performed extremely well, played with a high motor, really didn't have any mental mistakes, off on some things technically, but sky's the limit for Inez Cooper.
In terms of his size, is this really more of the ideal of what you see as an offensive lineman, guys that are that big and athletic the way that he is?
Well, we take him in all shapes and sizes. They're all different. He's more similar to what we've had over the last several years. We've had really good offensive lines in our stops. Guys that are Outland Trophy winners and Joe Moore Award-winning offensive lines. And some of those pieces require massive size or whatnot, but not all of them. We've played with, particularly at the center position. We've played with centers that are a little bit leaner and more athletic, that still have power and are capable of doing all the things that big guys can do. So in some aspects, yes, but you like to have guys that can do a lot of different things. If you could draw it up perfectly, you like to have guys that could play all 5 positions, and then a couple guys that could really star at the tackle position.
Leonard Taylor, obviously, he's had a great game Saturday. He's played really well lately. You're a former offensive one, and going into the defensive tackle like that, and what did you do it so disruptive?
Well, I think 3 weeks ago, just sitting down with him, things changed. A true commitment to nutrition, getting his weight up, lifting, practice, more film, understanding the defense and working your assignments. His plays were made by executing technique, fundamentals, assignment. I mean, he had a massive game. That, to me, Saturday was an indication of what Leonard Taylor is to be going forward. You know, he's another one where sky's the limit. You know, and then we're talking about one guy's a freshman, and that's Cooper, another guy's a sophomore on defense. So these are really, really good young players. But again, I can't speak highly enough about Leonard Taylor's performance on Saturday.
How about Al Blades? He's stepped up in a bigger role. And is there a status update on James Williams too?
James is doing well. He's healthy, seems to be ready to go. No issues. But back to Al Blades, even more importantly, because he played this game and Al did a great job. He certainly did. Was on point, you know, mentally. As a defense overall, those guys communicated well together. Al was a big reason for that as well. Everybody's really proud of him, you know, and really encouraged and fired up about his play because he really did do a really, really good job stepping in for James.
How do you, I know you said earlier that you're not really a nostalgic guy, you kind of never have been. You know what this week's about, you know what the storylines will be. It's always about the history, the past, the kicks, all the, and you go on down the list. How do you insulate the kids from it? How do you tell the kids this is a week where you really need to block out this?
Oh, I don't think he ever can do that, you know. You like to, I mean, I know everyone goes up to the microphone, they say, hey, we got to block it. You can't block it all out. I mean, you sign up to certain schools to play in certain games, and this is certainly one of them. You just got to make sure that you pour out of the emotional side and pour in a passion for the game, passion for this particular game, passion for playing as good as you can play, because that's a stronger source of, I would say, energy, you know, a stronger source of performance enhancement, to be able to just pour into your love for the game, your love for playing in this particular game, your love for your teammates or whatnot. But in terms of the stuff that goes around it, you just, you know what you do, you go to work and you go right back to technique, you go right back to fundamentals, you go right back to film study. You start putting it on each and every player to hold each other accountable, do the right things, getting good habits, man, you know. So much of this stuff is about being able to, unfortunately, forego some of the things that surround being a young man and get more serious about this craft, right? Because every single year, guys get bigger, stronger, schemes get more difficult, you know. Intelligence and good choice and decisions play a bigger role in how teams perform when the season starts and as it goes on and it gets difficult. And all those things are things that are emphasized, that we're growing and learning from. So it's, as long as you pour into those things, what are they? They're the facts. Pour into the facts, right? And I think everything else should follow.
It's never as simple as it was, but you guys go from like 17 penalties 1 week to obviously much more manageable number. You go from 8 balls on the ground to none.
Mm-hmm.
Things can turn pretty quick. What is it about this group that when you make corrections, look, I know that problems do come up, of course, but you guys have been able to clean up a lot of things quickly.
Yeah.
At times. So is there something about this group? Is it a smart group? Is it a group that is starting to understand what you want more and more?
It's a really good group of guys. We have a really good core, and we're learning, and we're growing, you know. And sometimes, and I said the entire organization, sometimes we're just damn stubborn, you know. Sometimes we don't, all of us, and that's me included, we prevent ourselves from taking that next step with mistakes that we impose upon ourselves. But so much of this game is between the ears, so much of it, you know. And as we continue to develop talent and infuse talent into the program, there's certain things that you must avoid to give yourself a chance to play. Saturday, okay? Not pretty on offense, but like you mentioned, you didn't turn the ball over. You didn't have penalties. You know, you could roll the dice on 4th and 2, but you know what? The previous couple of weeks, we rolled the dice and we put our defense in tough position and we looked deflated. You know, so hey, let's play to the strength of our team and let's see what it looks like. And next thing you know, you're playing field position and you give yourself a chance and you go. So we're learning and growing. We're learning and growing, and I do think that that this team, we got a lot of good guys that are really working hard, and some good leadership is forming. It's starting to, you know, things are popping up. They're like, you know, all right, that's what we need to get more of. Okay, so very, very encouraged by that, and you know, that's the kind of stuff that fires me up. I'm very process oriented. As I mentioned, I'm very boring. I'm like right to the work part to make sure that all the pieces can be in place to give us our best chance.
You'll have a lot more, obviously, fans at this game. I mean, this is the game for fans. Is that important to you at all, or how important to the players? How does it affect the complexion of the game, does it?
Oh, I think for the players it always does. I come from a different day and age. I mean, back then you'd play in the Walmart parking lot in front of nobody, just because you love to play the game. But that's not what's important to me is not what's important. What's important to the players is what's most important. And our fans we got really good fans, and typically this game brings out a lot of people, and I think it's an awesome experience for our players to get a good feel for what a Miami football game really looks like.
Outside of the execution on offense, just curious about the actual play calling and your opinion of how you guys have sort of called games through all the injuries and everything you've had to deal with.
Well, you always try to make things work, right? You game plan as such to give yourself the best chance, to win. And I think if you look at that room, every single coach at every single stop has had very high success rates, from the Bros Award to top 10 offenses to, you name it, right? So that doesn't change overnight, right? You may not get the results you want, but certainly it's a matter of combining all those things that can work and then fit them to where we are personnel-wise, whether it be an injury, whether it be a deficit at a particular position. But I think the tape tells the whole story, We've got to continue to find ways to move the ball and find ways to score when we can, and when those opportunities are there, you got to make it work. And you've got to continue to develop. You've got to continue to develop players. Players got to continue to develop. We've got to get tougher, and we've got to get more aggressive in our approach to our preparation. When it gets tough and you get dinged up, you got to suck it up and you got to go. And we got to keep bringing talent to the program, So I think it's I always shoot straight, man. I don't pull any punches, So.
Unrelated. A lot of college football stadiums are old, and locker rooms are pretty close together. Tunnels are sometimes shared. How much do coaches fear an event like what happened at Michigan State? Like sometimes
Man, it's unfortunate, I was here, in 89 with Catholics versus convicts, right? I've been through a couple of those, really nasty events. We had some that were, there wasn't social media back then, so it's not covered as such. So it's just not part of the game, man. It's just not, We talk about it all the time because, football is a physical, sometimes violent sport, super high energy right through the roof. Emotions, passion, like boom, right? But you want to go and dominate someone, and people all say, kick their bucket. You want to always be able to do it in a football manner and leave it football-wise, and never let that spill outside. And look, and those are good coaches. I know those guys. That's never once been preached in any meeting they've ever had. It just sometimes things get out of control, and you wish that would never happen. You hope that those kind of things never happen to any program. Makes sense.
Thank
you. Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Our offensive coordinator Josh Gattis here. Jump right into questions.
What was your message to Jake after the game?
The message was obviously we got to win. Let's celebrate the win, celebrate the moment, be in the moment at the time. Obviously it was a hard-fought game, and just to see our team respond back from adversity. Having to score obviously at the end of the first half, at the end of the second half. There's times throughout the year where we faced adversity and we necessarily didn't respond. And to see the response of our team, and obviously this team is still growing, this team is still maturing, that was a positive. So at that moment after the game and still on, we want to try to build on the positives and focus in that direction.
I saw you were down on the field for the game on Saturday. Why did you decide to change that, I guess?
Well, I felt like it would give me an opportunity to bring some poise to the sideline for the players, obviously, to be able to see in their eyes, get a feel for them throughout the game. Obviously, we had faced some tough adversity the week before with some turnovers, and really it's kind of a rallying moment of just being able to instill some confidence, being able to talk and get communication going on the sideline. When you're up in the box and you see adversity happen, you really feel like there's nothing you can do to help ease that moment. And so I thought it was important for me. They're constantly hearing my voice, they're constantly seeing my face in practice, to give them that reminder. If things don't go well, we got to respond. And it was good to get back down to the field. And obviously, as we move forward, we'll continue to make the best decisions there.
I was going to ask you, who was up in the box for you, obviously?
Actually, we moved Coach Ponce up, and then we moved another one of our graduate assistants as well. So.
And this week you're still undecided whether or not you'll be up
Yeah,
there?
it's still, I like to say it made a difference, but it didn't. It was still a tough, hard-fought battle. And so, you're just trying. You're going through all the different things that you could possibly do to help, bring confidence and momentum to your team. And so, as I said, obviously, we still got to grow. We still got a long ways to go. And we're just trying to build, each day to continue to build on what we're building.
Quarterback, is it a tough toe to line between being aggressive and limiting turnovers?
I think it is. I think especially after you're coming after a game where you've given up a high number of sacks, high number of turnovers, right? You want to be smart. And let me say this too, tremendous credit to our defense, because the confidence and faith that we have in our defense right now, and our defense's ability to go out there and play great football. We felt like last week we wanted to minimize as many risks and minimize as many turnovers as possible to be able to win that game. You can't win games, giving up sacks, can't win games creating turnovers. And so ultimately, as we hit down this final stretch, we've got to decide what's best for our team to win each and every week and put our team in position to win. We did some things, obviously, when you're bringing in a new quarterback that, we wanted to keep him under poise. We wanted to not let the game get rattled in that situation and limit some of the mistakes that we were making.
Coach, how is Jakari Brown?
I'll answer both. Okay. So.
Jakari Brown got some more plays. He actually threw a pass in this game. What can you say about his play, and what should we expect from him going forward?
Well, I think it's evident right now if you watch our team, right, Jakari is probably one of our top playmakers on our team, right? Just positive plays continue to happen with him. He's probably one of the most dynamic runners we have. I don't know, he's our fastest player on offense right now at this point. And so, you got to find as many creative ways to use someone like that has the ability to keep the chains moving, bring positive plays. One of the things that he also does, right, he brings positive energy to our sideline. When you see Jakari go in the game and you see him make plays, you see the energy, the excitement of our team increase. And so we need that. We need that desperately right now as a team. We need that desperately as an offense. And so he gives us an opportunity there, and obviously we'll continue to grow his package. Obviously teams are going to look at him a lot of different ways with the more they see him. But he's a quarterback for us. He's always been a quarterback. He's a quarterback, and he will always remain a quarterback. And we've got to continue to use him in that fashion.
Coach, how much did TVD help Jake this past week being there on the sideline? Did he
Well, Tyler was definitely a good resource. Obviously continue to talk to Jake on the sideline in between series, talking through coverage, plays, reads, and everything. And then there was a lot that Tyler was also processing for himself, being able to see he was giving me great information. And I was talking constantly back with him. And ultimately, we continue to move forward in his rehab. And, we look forward to preparing all those guys as we move forward.
With Jakari Brown, he dropped back to pass one time in that game. How have you seen him grow as a passer, through his freshman season?
Well, that's the area where he wants to develop the most, as a complete passer. And, we've got faith in his development. We're going to continue to push him, continue to develop him because, you see all his physical traits, right? That's what makes him special. But he's also a very smart kid, being able to handle a lot. And right now, I'll tell you, we're putting a lot on his plate, a lot of different packages, a lot of different formations, a lot of different runs. and passes. And he's going through that. And he goes through practice. He doesn't go through practice as a gimmick guy. He goes through practice as a quarterback. So he's making those throws. And unfortunately, obviously, he didn't have his best throw there on Saturday, but I've seen him complete that pass, 10 times throughout the week and just kind of caught up in the nervous moment. And so, we're going to continue developing him as a quarterback completely in practice.
How important was it to plug Xavier Restrepo back into the offense?
Yeah, it was very important. He's been a key piece that's been missing out of our offense, and obviously we knew going into the game he was on a numbers count. Obviously we have a process in place where we want to try to get everyone caught up to being 100%, and he's not quite there yet, but we feel good about the process that he's taken. And so being able to get him back on the sideline, being able to get him back in the game obviously makes a critical play in a special situation in the game. And I think he only finished with 12 or so snaps in the game, but those 12 snaps are important. It builds to his confidence, build to his conditioning, but then ultimately take the next step in his rehab process to get him back fully acclimated to our team.
I know you were talking about, or Mario was talking about, and you were preparing all three quarterbacks possibly to play. We're talking about fine lines today, is there a fine line between preparing TBD and not having him overdo it with the injury?
I think there very is, and that's where we've got a tremendous medical staff that does a great job rehabbing our guys, getting them back to full speed. And one thing that you see with our medical staff, right, we're not going to take any shortcuts. Right, we're going to make sure that everyone's healthy and prepared. And even, guys like Xavier Restrepo, right, he was clawing at it to come back out there on the field 2 to 3 weeks ago, and it just wasn't the right time. And so we're always going to protect our players with the best interests of their health, always first and foremost. And we'll build off that. We've experienced a lot of different injuries on offense. And so, the next man up approach is real. We've got to prepare everyone for their opportunity to try to help make an impact in the game.
You guys went heavy with Henry Parrish in this game. Just how do you sort of balance keeping his body healthy and for all that banging, and then sprinkling in other guys?
Yeah, that's a great question, because Henry ran extremely hard. I mean, that's probably one of the hardest games I've seen a running back run for a guy of his size and stature. Physical in between the tackles, running over second level and third level defenders. Just being able to get him back out there the last 2 weeks has injected our team with so much energy and confidence, and especially what we were able to do last week, right? It's been a tough sled in the last few weeks running the football. And so to inject that confidence in our offensive line, in our running backs, that we can do that. And then Lucius Stanley coming in there running the ball extremely hard, as well as Jakari. And so, we're going to always have to continue to find that production by group. I don't think one man can sit there and carry the ball 30 times a game. I think obviously you're putting them at risk in that situation. And then we got tremendous confidence in our other guys. We got to get our confidence back in Jalen Knight. We got to get him going and Thad and those guys. And so we're just going to continue to push. We got to work extremely hard throughout the week in practice, got to prepare extremely hard. And then when we have the opportunities, we have to go out and execute at a high level in games. And I think that's been the whole key.
Follow up to that. With that and Jalen, obviously we know we had the fumble issues. Are they not practicing up to the level? I mean, do you just have more faith in Lucius and Henry right now, holding on to the football, just kind of the decision making there?
Well, it's credit to both kids, because we do have belief in Jalen and Thad, and they practice really hard. But you got to be able to carry that over to the games. And unfortunately, we face some adversity in games. Whether that's fumbles, whether that's making people miss in space, one-on-one opportunities, protection, all the whole things. And so right now, we're just at that point in the season where, you've got to start relying on consistency, and I think that's a very important piece to us, because when you look at us offensively, that's the piece that's been missing. Consistency in players being available, consistency in execution, everything, and top down. And that falls on me. And we've got to just continue to build our players, continue to build them up, continue to get their confidence and trust in themselves and their abilities. That way they can go out on Saturday and execute at a high level. I think what's happened to a little bit of our guys is they work so hard throughout the week that moment comes on Saturday, and they necessarily don't get that same opportunity, or maybe adversity strikes and they can't hang their heads on it, man. Fumbling obviously is part of the game. That's something that we want to eliminate. But we've got to find ways to correct those things and move forward and not allow them to happen again.
Josh, last year went pretty perfectly for you, at least till the very, very end. And you come here and you're 2/3 of the way through the season now, and it's been anything but. It's been a wild ride, a roller coaster. I noticed at the end of the game last, you released a little emotion, ran down to the end zone, and were part of the celebration and all that. Talk a little bit about how your head is and what this season has been like for you and going through those different experiences.
I think every year is different, and we ultimately all chose to be here for a reason, to make an impact. And, do we wish that impact obviously could be a lot sooner or faster than what we wish it would take? Yes, but we've all been around turnarounds. I've been around multiple different turnarounds, from being a new staff, taking over a Vanderbilt program that was at pretty much the bottom of the SEC, and being able to win there, and being able to be a part of a staff that took over a struggling Penn State program and being able to have success there. And so this is no different than any other challenges that I've been a part of in my career. Got tremendous faith in the coaches and Coach Cristobal and the vision that he has for this program. And we all came here together to make an impact. And although we all came from very successful programs, and you look across the board, everyone was having success, we're in the moment now, and things haven't necessarily gone our way, whether it's injuries or wins, losses, certain things. But we've got to have tremendous confidence in who we are as a staff, tremendous confidence in our players, and we have the right program to move forward. And Coach has laid out the guidelines of what he wants, the process of what it takes. And we've got to stay committed to that process each and every day. We've got to recruit at a very, very high level. We've got to develop at a very, very high level. And we've got to continue to create a process of confidence for our players, and also just being able to, the philosophy of our program, being able to drill that home to them. And so we're going to continue to work at it. It's been a tough year, been a challenging year. It's not over. We still got a lot to play for, a lot to look forward to. And it starts this week with a big rivalry.
How does Khalil Brantley's physicality from the tight end position help the offense?
Tremendous. Ton of credit to Khalil Brantley. What he was able to go in and do, and one of the things that Khalil has done is he's had to take on a little bit of the dirty work at the tight end position. Obviously being down Elijah at that role, and obviously Will's had some injuries along the way. But if you saw the physical impact that Khalil brought to the game on Saturday, he did a tremendous job. I think that team that Virginia had some really talented defensive ends, and when you look at them nationally, they're in the top 15 in sacks. His impact in the run game affected those guys' ability to rush the passer. He had multiple knockdowns where they were game-changing. And, went back, showed our offensive unit those plays, and that's how you create a mindset. That's how you create belief. And what Khalil did is he created role and opportunities for him moving forward. He's got to continue to obviously prepare and practice at a very high level, but he will be rewarded. And we want all of our guys to buy in to what we're asking them to do, and do it at a very high level. And he brought tremendous energy to our team.
All right, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Coach. See you on it momentarily.
Wore your costumes.
We have defensive coordinator Kevin Steele. We'll jump straight into questions.
Just your thoughts on the performance last game.
Well, it was obviously it was great to get a win, and anytime you can hold anybody to no touchdowns in a game, that's hard to do in this day and age with offenses the way they are. I thought our kids showed tremendous focus, tremendous fight. They were relentless in their effort from the first snap to the end. And we created a couple of situations, two plays created a couple of situations where we put our backs against the wall, and they never flinched at all. And then we go into overtime, and we played 4 overtimes, and they gained 2 yards in 4 overtimes. Proud of the effort, but just like I told you, after a game that doesn't scoreboard-wise fit what we want, after a game scoreboard-wise where it does, no touchdowns, there's still a laundry list of things we can improve on, that we will improve on. I told you last week that we were not satisfied with our red zone defense. Obviously, our guys, they corrected that, obviously. So there's always a laundry list of things we can do better. And it's a growing process. It never ends. And so proud of what they did, though.
What makes the difference week to week? I mean, same players, same defensive coordinator, same scheme.
Not always same defensive coordinator.
But what I'm getting at is 1 week it works. Like this week, obviously, the competition is a factor, but then there's been weeks where it just didn't work. And where's that fine line? What turns the tide in that situation?
It comes down to us coaching and making sure that they understand things that will help them be successful, and then execution. Eye discipline, doing your job. Know your job, do your job. That goes from me all the way to the manager and everybody in between. And so no football player ever looks the same on defense. You sit up there and you say, well, they're in the same formation, they ran the same play. Well, the angle of the block wasn't the same. The release of the wide receiver to his block wasn't the same. Nothing is ever the same. And so it's adjusting all the time. It's adjusting all the time. But it really comes down to just everybody knowing their job and doing their job.
Mario, talking earlier about just the level, maybe a couple of weeks ago, Leonard Taylor, just something clicked. Whether, I think you said maybe a little bit more of a commitment to his body and stuff like that. Just what have you kind of seen click with him over these last
Maturity.
weeks?
It's just, you go from being a high school senior to a freshman to a sophomore, and, I've seen it through the years. And that's just the way it works. It's a job that takes repetition, and particularly in the line of scrimmage. Every now and then you can get a young corner out there and just say, okay, go out there on the island, and he won the 100 meters in a state, and nobody's going to run past him just because he's that fast. He still has to develop his technique and his eyes, but that's a little bit easier than 300 pounds on one ear and 300 pounds on the other ear. That's just repetition and maturity.
Coach, you said earlier this year that Caleb Johnson and Corey Fry couldn't play together. They played the same position, but we saw them out there quite a bit. What changed, and then how do you think they played?
Well, we moved one of them. That's what changed. We just felt like with the injury that we'd had, Wesley had an injury, and so then and Steed had an injury, and we just felt like to keep the best three on the field, somebody had to move. And so Corey, being the guy that was, he's more seasoned in what we do, he moved to the position. So Caleb did not move. He played the same position. They played well.
What have you made of Corey Flagg's development? Obviously, 99 tackles for loss, made a big play in overtime.
Oh, excuse me, who?
Corey Flag.
Yeah. What did I, what?
What have you made of his development this season?
Well, it's the same as what you see. He's same thing with Leonard. He's getting comfortable in the defense, the repetition of it. He has become very astute in quarterbacking the defense, but he's also become really good at understanding what they're going to do and dissecting that in terms of preparing for the game, understanding that okay, in this set they're going to do this, this, and this. They can't do this. Sometimes it's more important to know what offense is not going to do than be necessarily 100% right of what they're going to do. They can do this, this, and this, but they can't do this out of the set. So it just condenses things for you, slows things. The game slows down for it.
You've been on sidelines for a lot of really great rivalry games, and you coached in the FSU rivalry before. How does this rivalry compare to other teams?
Well, having been in the Oklahoma, Nebraska, been in that game, South Carolina, Clemson game, Clemson, Florida State game, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama. I've been in a few of them. And then, of course, the Florida State, Miami game, 5 of those, 2 of them in 1 year. And I think 2003, we played in the Orange Bowl after playing in the season. The ironic thing that is really strange about that, and I remember this very vividly, I think you have to go look it up, and I think I'm correct in saying this. I don't think in those 5 games any team scored over 20 points except one time Miami scored 22, and I think it was like 22-13. The rest of them were like 13-10, 10-9, 14-13. It was a little bit like last Saturday. There's a whole lot of defense and not much offense. That's what I remember. But if you go back to those days, that was kind of the hallmark of those two teams.
They played a whole lot. Obviously, Akeem, we saw went down. Mesidor. Just can you talk to maybe Mitchell's game and the improvement he's making?
Well, he's a football player. He's a very heavy-handed guy, and he's one of the best edge setters that I've been around in terms of when you got pullers coming or tight ends slicing across the back to block the defensive end. It's kind of fun to watch. I'm just being real with you. They come back, they pull out there, they come back across there, and the game starts, and they're smoking. And then after about the third time of getting to Mitchell, they kind of start slowing down a little bit. Some of them even turning their head a little bit. He's just a physical guy. He loves to compete. He's smart, very heavy-handed, very thick when he contacts you. I mean, he's a good defensive end, particularly at setting the edge. And then he's relentless in his pass rush. He just, he's not the sleek type pass rusher that some people have, but he's just so relentless with it that sometimes he out-physicals you.
And then just to follow up, the challenge of Florida State, their offense, and Jordan Travis, want to ask you about them.
Yeah, Florida State's offense, well, it's, Mike Norvell, the head coach, the play caller, the designer, they're very multiple in what they do. And this is a little bit different. You can go into most games and say, okay, this is the base things they're going to do, and you're going to see them every week. You can watch games against Florida State this year and not see the same thing. One game's completely different from another game. And so, we're going to have to be really good at adjusting to the unknowns this week, because we're going to see stuff that's not on Florida State film. Now, it's the same runs, it's the same passes, but it's masked completely different every week.
Jordan Travis has passed for 500 more yards this year than he did all of last year. Talk to us about the challenges he brings as quarterback.
Yeah, I didn't keep up with him last year. Most of the film I watched last year was another conference, so I did not see him. So I went back in the summer, obviously, and watched a great deal. I think he's staying in the pocket longer now. He really would pull it down and run quick last year. He's staying in the pocket. Things are developing more for him. I think the game slowed down for him. He's throwing really accurate, but there's always that potential of him beating you with your feet. He can escape. So, he's a very, very good challenge for us, to say the least.
Coach, obviously this is an emotional game, and at times the defense will try to make plays and not be as disciplined. How do you kind of taper their emotions in a game like this? So
Simple. You can play the game of football with emotion. You can't be emotional. It's two different things. You can have excitement and energy, but when you start reacting to things and become emotional based on what happened or what didn't happen, then you get lost in this game.
And how can they not give up as many big plays as they had during the season with tapering their motion?
Now, I'll go ahead and ask you, can I? You want to name those big plays? Because I got the list of them. So as many as, are you seeing something different than I see?
Well, the last game, there were a couple of big plays that
That's two.
given up.
Okay, that's two.
Yeah, just how can
All right, now what football game did you watch Saturday that didn't have big plays in it? Did you watch any?
Of course.
There's big plays. Offensive make big plays. The bottom line is you don't let them score. Okay? So, and I'm just being candid with you. All right? So we can't paint a picture like these kids have not gone out there and done some really, really good things, and you just blanket statement that there's been multiple egregious amount of big plays. We've had our share. That's on me. It's unacceptable, but it's not. You can't tell me the number. I can tell you, and it's not a lot. Now go ahead and ask your question.
So, how can this team just be more disciplined against Florida State?
It's no different for any other team. It's know your job, do your job. Have eye discipline and communication, simply put. And for me to coach better. Where it starts ends.
We'll do a couple more for Coach Steele.
Coach, so just another question about Leonard Taylor. What about him makes him such a uniquely talented player on the defensive line?
He's big, strong, and fast. Simply put, very, very talented. That's DNA.
How about Al Blades, the way he stepped in and played for James? How did he perform?
Really good. Played really, really well. We've gotten some very meaningful snaps out of him. He is very intelligent. It means a lot to him. Means a lot to him. So he played very well. It really helped us because, as you know, I know when y'all probably heard it, James was out. You thought, okay, what's going to happen here? By the halftime, that wasn't a question anymore.
Coach, I just want to touch on, you touched on the 03 rivalry game, Miami, Florida State. The one up there, Sean Taylor had one of these memorable performances. Your perspective, do you remember him in that game?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. He was on the other side of the ball, of course, and we're making adjustments, but yeah. Great players in great games, you remember.
Obviously with the injuries at the linebacker position, any chance we see more of Chase Smith or some of the other younger guys, or any of them coming along at that spot?
Pardon me now.
Guys obviously are dinged up, the Saint, I know this is the most recent Steed, I know Coach mentioned he's been banged up. Just curious, is there any chance, that we'll start seeing Chase Smith and some of the other younger?
Chase is out.
Oh, Chase is out too, okay. Okay.
At this present time, he is.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anybody else that you might work in there?
We're down on numbers from there.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin, how many reps can a defensive tackle like a Leonard Taylor take in a game and maintain their level of effectiveness? He's bounced between like 20 and 30 all year. He's playing better than he's ever played in his career. Is he ready for more? Like, can he go more than 20 to 30 reps?
Yeah, we only played 54 regular snaps. I mean, we've been pretty low in our snap count, But yeah, he can. And it's also how long are drives? Are you coming off a 13-play drive or are you coming off of a 3 and out? It's a whole lot easier to go back in after a 3 and out than it is after a 13-play drive at that weight body structure. And we try to keep the guys fresh, keep the pitch count right and relative, but then the best players are going to be on the field when they need to be on the field. And so, and sometimes you get that wrong. You rest a guy in the second quarter, so you got him in the third and fourth quarter, and then you play really well and get a lot of 3 and outs like we did the other day, and I think 54, 56 snaps in the game, and then you say, well, we could have played him more in the second quarter, but we didn't have a crystal ball to know what was going to happen in the third and fourth quarter. And you know what? It may have, him being fresh in that overtime, it may be why they gained 2 yards in 4 possessions.
How do you keep track of that during the game?
There's somebody assigned to each position. They keep track of it. Yeah, it's a little ticker.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it.